Hello, welcome to session 3F. Today we're going to talk about advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion in STEM research experiences with the Remote Supergroup for Chemistry Undergraduates. My name is Chantal Stieber. I'm an associate professor of chemistry at Cal Poly Pomona, and I'm really excited to tell you today about some of the work we've been doing during the summers to foster a remote and inclusive learning environment. Undergraduate research has been shown to be critical to an education in STEM. Participation in undergraduate research has been shown to increase persistence in STEM. Those who participate in undergraduate research are more likely to finish their degrees. There are also many practical, cognitive, affective, and behavioral benefits. In sum, doing undergraduate research will benefit any career, whether or not students continue in a research career or move on into a different area. At Cal Poly Pomona, the Office of Undergraduate Research has been studying a lot of our internal statistics with regards to undergraduate research. They've found from a study of around 7,000 students that it increases the likelihood of graduating almost twofold. It equally benefits all students, so both those from underrepresented groups and historically marginalized groups, including first-generation students. And so therefore it has a huge potential to close education equity gaps. The challenges with undergraduate research is generally underrepresented groups are less likely to participate. Components of this might be because of access. So a lot of times research opportunities come about by students reaching out to faculty directly and asking if there's a spot. Typically positions aren't advertised. There's often a cost component. So many times undergraduate research might be volunteer work or students receive course credit for it, but it's not a paid position, and it takes away from time that students might otherwise be working in a paid position. There's also limited space. So at Cal Poly Pomona in chemistry, our research groups have between 4 and 15 students per faculty member. And this means that if more students would like to do research, there just physically isn't a spot for everybody who might want to participate. And the last component is that it often requires a physical lab space. So here on the right is a picture of my research group, 3 students in front of our inert atmosphere glove box, which is to use, this is used to do chemistry in the absence of oxygen. And you can see there's not space. And it's something that when COVID came around, really hindered our research work. So COVID caused a lot of our labs to shut down. Undergraduates weren't allowed to be in labs for over a year. And this caused a lot of faculty at undergraduate institutions in particular to think about how we might come up with research experiences that could provide some similar benefits, but be conducted in a virtual setting. And so this brings me to the topic that I'll be talking about today, where we created a virtual program in response to COVID, but we've actually continued it despite a return to in-person research. And we found that it actually still provides many benefits and has potential to increase equity and access for research. So specific objectives when we were creating a virtual research program were to look at scientific communication, professional development, equity in science, and scientific community. And specifically, we wanted to engage students in discussion of chemical research, to inform students of further educational and career pathways, and to increase awareness and discourse of equity and issues in science, and to foster community across institutions. And so in 2020, myself and 3 collaborators created the Remote Supergroup for Chemistry Undergraduates, which was led by Erin Gray at Washington Lee University. And this ended up being students and faculty from what has become 33 primarily undergraduate institutions. During the summers, we have weekly virtual meetings. These meetings include an equity minute, keynote presentations or panels, and breakout discussions. Here's a map of all the universities that have participated in the last 3 years. You can see it's well represented from all across the US, and we also have 1 international participant. For scientific communication, one of the advantages of this large group of primarily undergraduate institutions is that we had a critical mass to be able to invite really high caliber speakers. We were able to invite a diverse set of faculty from some of the top institutions in the US, including Caltech, MIT, UT Austin, UC Santa Cruz, and University of Wisconsin-Madison. In advance to each of these presentations, the speakers provided a research paper that students would read in advance, such that they had some background knowledge before the speaker came and talked with the students. And at the end of each presentation, students would ask questions, and they could also then join a breakout room and interact directly with these faculty members. We also had student flash presentations every summer. So students signed up and they each presented 3 slides about their research. And this was hugely popular. A lot of students were very hesitant to present initially, but afterwards they felt like it was such a positive and uplifting experience. For professional development, we had 3 different panels. We had a graduate school panel, a professional school panel, and a career panel. And our key focus here was to ensure that we had a diverse range of perspectives, both in terms of the panelists' backgrounds and that we also had people who had graduated from some of the institutions that were participating. These were highly popular among students and generated a lot of discussion. A key component of the summer program was talking about equity in science and chemistry. 2020 was the murder of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and others, as well as the increased momentum of the Black Lives Matter movement. This resulted in renewed discussions within the chemistry community as to how we could foster more equitable, diverse, and inclusive community. Each week, we selected a topic that we talked about for approximately 5 minutes to lead into discussions in the breakout rooms. Each topic also had a related paper that was uploaded for students to read in advance of the discussion, and we made an effort to highlight papers from underrepresented minorities. In the first year, the breakout rooms developed concrete ideas on what they could do to foster an equitable and learning and research environment in STEM. Some topics included demographics in STEM. We talked about how the demographics in chemistry are not representative of the US population. We discussed the leaky pipeline analogy, where 12.3% of US population is Black, but only 1.6% of chemistry professors at top 50 US institutions are Black. Overall, students were surprised at how extreme these inequities were, but were glad to learn about them. We also talked about bias in the GRE and standardized exams, and bias in research funding. We highlighted issues facing LGBTQ scientists and lack of reporting by the National Science Foundation. For example, the NSF currently only reports male and female demographics and is only just starting to pilot including other genders. We talked about gender bias in hiring and illegal interview questions to prepare students for future interviews. We amplified diverse chemists such as Professor Rachel Burks and Professor Mona Minkara. And we highlighted disability in chemistry. One topic we discussed was development of organic chemistry sign language for the deaf community and how it fosters a better understanding of organic chemistry mechanisms. We hosted one speaker in the 2nd and 3rd years who was an expert in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And finally, we wanted to include actions. This included reading the paper 10 Simple Rules for Building an Anti-Racist Lab by Chowdhury and Berhe. Overall, the equity minutes sparked excellent discussions, but our biggest limitation was that we would have liked to discuss so much more. And the final component was to build scientific communities. So a key component in STEM retention is whether or not students feel like they belong. And so we felt it was really important that students build connections and network with professionals and students all across the US and in different disciplines. So here's a Zoom image of one of our super groups. We usually had around 80 in attendance, so this is just one screenshot. But we were able to foster faculty collaborations, and we also had breakout rooms every week. Breakout rooms were hit and miss. Some students really loved it and some didn't, but it ended up being an optional thing that those who wanted to could attend. So in terms of assessment, For scientific communication, we asked how much did you gain in comfort in discussing scientific concepts with other people as a result of your participation in RSCU? And so you can see that in all 3 years, a majority of participants felt that they had great, good, or moderate gain in discussing scientific concepts. So this showed us that one of our scientific communication goals was met. A student respondent told us that preparing a concise way to explain something complex really made me hone in on what's important, and I feel like I'm better prepared for interviews. This is an excellent example of students having more career preparation for any career they might choose. With regards to professional development, we asked, based on your experience with RSCU, how much do you agree with the following statement? This experience helped me clarify my career path. And again, in all 3 years, most either strongly agreed or agreed with this statement. A student respondent said that they gained so much knowledge about education after undergrad. It was so nice to be able to talk to someone that was just in my shoes and is living the life I hope to be living in just a couple of years. With regards to equity in science, we asked, based on your experience with RSCU, how much do you agree with the following statement? I am more aware about equity issues facing the scientific community. And in all 3 years, the results were overwhelmingly positive with strongly agree or agree. So this showed us that our equity minutes really were starting to serve their purpose. Students also felt that they had ideas on how to contribute to a more equitable environment, again, overwhelmingly positive. And a student respondent said that the highlights on these issues in science really opened my eyes up to them and helped me learn more about how to face the challenges at my own university and lab. We also surveyed faculty separately, so we asked faculty how much they agreed with the following statement. I am more comfortable leading and participating in discussions about equity with my students. In this case, again, around 80% of faculty said they strongly agree or agreed. In the first year, we did have someone who said not applicable, and this was someone who already had a lot of experience in discussing equity in science. But this test was very positive, that even for faculty, it helps them feel more comfortable potentially addressing some of the inequities in science in the future. With regards to the scientific community, we asked how much did you gain in feeling part of a scientific community as a result of your participation in RSCU? And overall, again, over 90% had great gain or good gain in all 3 years. This showed us that we were able to foster a scientific community, even in an online and virtual platform, and even after return to in-person research. A student respondent said that because of RSCU, I learned that there's a supportive scientific community that is willing to learn and improve. It makes my experience in research less lonely. And for faculty, in terms of the scientific community, most faculty enjoyed interacting with scientists outside my institution. So with regards to faculty, many primarily undergraduate institutions, each faculty member might be the only expert in their field, and so this allowed faculty to meet experts at other institutions. A faculty respondent said, I had a great experience. It helped me embrace networking and developing connections with other PUI faculty, which are valuable aspects of this career. And overall, the outcomes were highly positive. Over 90% of students and faculty research mentors agreed or strongly agreed that the overall experience participating in RSCU was beneficial. And over 85% of faculty respondents agreed or strongly agreed that participation in RSCU was beneficial for my research students. To add a few more quotes from respondents, a student said, I think RSCU was an added advantage to my in-person research. I really felt encouraged and motivated whenever I saw other young STEM majors and listened to the wonderful works they are doing in their individual universities. And from faculty, we heard, it's great that there can be community building beyond our institution, and the fact that it happens on Zoom is very convenient. The students also had an opportunity to give talks on their research because of RSCU. So the key thing I'd like to talk about now is what are the implications for increasing access to research when implementing a program similar to RSCU? Overall, we were able to reach 30 to 50% of first and second year students in both 2020 and 2021. So this suggests that it's providing a platform for less advanced students to learn about research earlier in their careers. Many students had no prior research experience. You'll notice that in 2020, this is around 20%. In 2021, this was around 30%. And one of the things we did to encourage students without research experience to participate was just send out broad welcome emails to anybody. In the Department of Chemistry at Cal Poly Pomona, we invited all our chemistry majors to participate, and many were really excited to be part of this. And anecdotally, several ended up joining my research group afterwards. We had majority female participants in both 2020 and 2021, which is not reflective of the general scientific community in chemistry. And our participants were more diverse than chemistry graduate students in current PhD programs. This is data that's limited to US citizens and permanent residents. However, you can see that the graduate chemistry population is overwhelmingly white, 70%. And in our summer research program, you can see that we're closer to 50% white, and we have larger representation from both Asian and Hispanic or Latino-Latina participants. 25 to 35% of participants in our program were first-generation college students in both 2020 and 2021. And so this shows that a virtual online platform, even when in-person lab experiences are still happening, can be something that could be implemented to foster equity and inclusion in science. And I would argue that this could be applied to any discipline. So in my last slide, I would like to talk about some key components for implementation and how you could potentially take this type of a model and implement it in any other discipline or area. Key components we had for implementation were 8 or 9 meetings over the summer. These meetings were between 1 and 2 hours. Every year we had discussions on how long to make this. In the first year, we had a 1-hour meeting with a 1-hour breakout room. And that many felt that was too long, although many really appreciated the breakout rooms. In later years, we tried to bring it down to around 1 hour main content meeting and half-hour optional breakout room, which seemed to be a better balance overall. We had weekly 5-minute equity discussions. We had one faculty member typically in charge of these. We had around 2 to 3 panel discussions, and here it's really critical to bring in students who are both recent graduates and also have been out in industry or graduate programs for a bit longer, and students really related to having graduates from their institutions participate, and those students also really enjoyed participating. In the first year, we weren't able to pay anybody because we didn't have funding, and so a key component was to secure funding for the following years. We had 4 seminar speakers. In the first year, these speakers were not paid honoraria because we had no funding. In the second year, we all asked our respective universities for funding so that we could provide $500 honoraria to respect the speaker's time and ensure equity among speakers. In the third year, we also secured additional funding. We always saved 1 day for the student flash presentations. And here we even allowed students who hadn't participated in research to just present a paper if they would like, or something else that's related, as long as it's a scientific topic. The optional breakout rooms had a lot of discussion. Many felt these were some of the best things about rescue, and some people felt that this wasn't so great. But overall, after panel discussions, each panelist would go into a different breakout room and students could choose which panelist they wanted to talk to. And this was really good because students felt more comfortable talking to people who had recently graduated. And we also included optional breakout rooms with the seminar speakers, which many students felt more comfortable asking their questions in that format than in the overall group session during the talk. In terms of equity and access, it's critical to send an email to all the chemistry majors to invite all students to join. This allowed us to reach more students who normally aren't thinking about research, but maybe are curious and want to learn a bit more. And finally, we all have a lot of things and commitments that we're doing. And so having at least 2 lead organizers is really critical. In our case, we had 4 lead organizers and a whole group of around 10 additional support faculty who really helped jump in when we needed additional help. And in the 3rd year, for example, we did a better job encouraging more faculty to participate in equity minutes and lead equity minutes. So overall, this is easily adaptable to any discipline. So if you're interested in learning more, our website is the Remote Supergroup chemistry.com. You're also welcome to email me if you have any questions. I'm happy to chat and stay on longer. And thank you to the participants for participating in all the years, and also Erin Gray for initiating this effort, Kimberly Choquette and Caitlin McMahon for working together with us. And finally, our individual universities for funding, as well as Pfizer, NSF, and Henry Dreyfus. So with that, I'm happy to stay on longer and answer any questions. Thank you for your time.